Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mood Swings with Liv Moods. I am your host, Liv Moods. We're going to get into all things NFL football now that I am back from the wonderful island of Hawaii. We've got lots to discuss, and this is, of course, presented by Landmark Lincoln. As you guys know, I'm going to keep telling you because I'm obsessed with my car. I am a new Landmark Lincoln family member. Yes, 2025 Lincoln Nautilus is my new ride. Make sure you guys head over to the Landmark Lincoln location off of Bellevue and Broadway to figure out why they have been the number one Lincoln dealer in all of Colorado for as long as they have. They are wonderful. Tell them that I sent you. They'll get you in a car, and they speak for themselves. But let's get into the show.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mood Swings with Liv Moods. I am your host, Liv Moods, back from Hawaii. Can you tell? I got some sun. It's true. I did. Maybe too much sun. Here's the deal. The last day we were there, we didn't fly out till late. So I was like, let's just enjoy the day as much as possible. I'm pretty sure it was like 8 a.m. till about 4 p.m. that I just sat cooking in the sun. I'm not proud of it. I did not wear enough SPF, but nonetheless, Hawaii is beautiful. It was my first time ever being there. I made a joke on the last show, and I'm not sure if any of you guys caught it, but I jokingly said that I got bird flu, although it might not have been a joke. Here's the deal about Hawaii, you guys. The chickens out there are violent. They are crazy. I was eating my acai bowl, minding my own damn business. I did not ask the chicken to come bother me. The chicken just took it upon itself to jump onto the picnic table, put its entire head and beak into my acai bowl, grab a strawberry, and keep running. I asked everyone around me, the natives, the people I was with, what do I do with my bowl? They were like, eat it. Oh, gosh, she's disgusting. She is disgusting. She ate the acai bowl. I did after the chicken had took it upon itself to put its face inside of my acai bowl. I ate the bowl. 24 hours later, I was sick as a dog. I joke about the bird flu, but it really could have been the bird flu. I don't know who's to say. I'm a super dramatic person, so of course I play that up quite a bit, but I'm feeling much better, although I don't sound 100%. Broke my fever while we were there. We were good, but I was sick the entire time. Again, can't complain though. You're in Hawaii under the sun. What I can complain about today though is Broncos country. Let's cry. That was tough. We're going to get into that. Of course, we're going to talk about the Broncos game that happened yesterday. That was brutal. And there's a couple other brutal things that I actually didn't put on the rundown, but feel like I need to note. Joe Burrow can't escape injuries if he tried, okay? 3 months out from a toe surgery. I actually have a little bit of a funny story here. My sister runs track. She's also a competitive dancer. She models. She actually does everything, a little bit of everything. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Am I feeling better? Yes, I am. Cam Mingo, thank you so much. But my sister is a track runner, very, very fast. She's very athletic. She got turf toe. And I kind of looked at her like, oh, get over it. It's just a toe. No, turf toe is actually, and I'm not sure the extent, Joe Burrow's injury sounds much grander, but my point is a toe injury is not to be poked fun at. When I was in college, I was wearing these cute little sandals. The sandal fell off my foot. My pinky toe got caught on a step. I tripped, and it literally, quite literally, snapped my pinky toe detached from my foot. This is a real story. I'll have to bring pictures next show. It was brutal. It was painful. They had to re-break my foot to reset it. It was this whole thing. So prayers up for Joe Burrow because I used to make light of toe injuries, but as it turns out, they're very serious. Joe Burrow out for 3 months. This Bengals team cannot catch a break, but we're going to get into the Bengals actually because I'm really not all that upset at what the Bengals were able to do and get the job done with or without Joe Burrow. So we're going to get into that in just a moment. But of course, got to get into all things NFL here. I've just kind of got a recap of some of the big things that stood out to me. First and foremost, hello, Robert Saleh. Wow, guys. The 49ers, no Purdy, no Kittle, no Juice, no Aiyuk on the road, found a way to win again. And we know defense wins championships. And this defense has certainly saved the 49ers in the last couple of weeks of football. I think it's honestly in San Francisco's best interest to sign Robert to a lifetime deal because he is handling business in San Francisco, truly. And I think this is really great for this 49ers team, and it's going to make this division that much more exciting and fun because Brock Purdy tends to face scrutiny. He's got some of the best offensive weapons, but last season they were riddled with injuries. We know Christian McCaffrey has already kind of off and on been dealing with some injuries. So very refreshing to see a defense that can help them win games as well, because your offense is not always going to be healthy. Brock Purdy's not always going to have a perfect game. So really cool to see this defense and what Robert has been able to do with this team, given the mess that he had to deal with in New York. Aaron Rodgers pointing fingers saying, "You suck," which in so many ways the Jets did have a lot of coaching issues. And, Robert wasn't perfect there, was he? No, he wasn't, but kind of feels like they might have did him a little dirty, tried to drag him through the mud, and he is proving he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. Shout out Robert, okay? And the 49ers, truly, this might be what carries them through the season, is that defense. We know how important it is. Getting over into all things Denver Broncos, which let me take a big, deep breath for this one. Wow. My next topic of conversation is, are the Colts legit? I fear they are, guys. That's the thing about it. I fear that they are. And this is not me speaking just as a Denver Broncos fan who is still licking her wounds and feeling a bit of disappointment and embarrassment on this fine Monday, but this is me really looking at this Colts team and saying they can be somebody. Are they legit? Yes, they are. They're both top 5. They're top 5 in both offensive and defensive yards, both yards and yards allowed. Okay, this is a really great defense and a really great offense. And the offense so far, a lot of that credit has to go to Mr. Daniel Jones, who's making a pretty solid case for himself for comeback player of the year. I've already tucked my tail, so don't make me do it again, because it really does hurt my feelings to have to do it. I've already tucked my tail and told you guys I was very wrong about what Danny Dimes was going to do with the Colts. I didn't think the Colts had a really great game plan. I was really on the side of, you can't convince me that Danny Dimes is a better option than Anthony Richardson. Now, I think I'm still holding on to the glimmers of hope that we saw from Anthony Richardson, but I think where he falls short is maturity. And I think as a quarterback, when you're leading the team in so many ways, you have to have the maturity piece. That's a non-negotiable in this position. And I do think we saw him have some immature moments last season. We've also seen him play a style of game that puts his body at risk a little bit more. So this is kind of a perfect example to me of Danny Dimes just needed to be somewhere that kind of had a revamp, felt a little more exciting, had a little bit more to offer. I jokingly said that he's been revived, but at the end of the day, he really just got weapons that he's able to utilize. Danny Dimes has always been a good quarterback. He's just been in crappy situations, and he's no longer in a crappy situation, and we're seeing that he still has it. Danny Dimes actually probably never lost it. He was just in a place where he couldn't really shine. So seems really, really cool to see him here and continuing to do what he's doing. Now, is there a part of me that's a little, maybe a tiny bit worried about the idea of Danny Dimes getting cranked one good time, like we saw him get cranked many times in New York, and kind of become discombobulated and lose some of that oomph? Possibly, is he going to get back to his New York form at some point? Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of teams and quarterbacks especially that really shine in the first few weeks of football. And then as the games start to drag on, as your body gets more tired, you start to see the real quarterback there. A lot of this is adrenaline. He's in a new place. He's excited. He's got weapons. I'm not wishing that for him, though, because, again, I think you kind of hold on to that just knowing what you saw from him in New York. But so much of that was lack of O-line, lack of weapons, injuries, coaching issues. There was a lot in his environment that was not working well with him. So we're seeing him in a place where he can really show us what he's about. 316 yards, 2 total touchdowns. This is now 2 weeks of football where we've seen Danny Dimes look like Tom Brady. I'm just saying. He looks exceptional, and he deserves his credit. The Colts are also the first team in the Super Bowl era to not punt in either of their first 2 games in the season. Again, a defense that's top 5 in yards allowed and an offense that's top 5 in yards. They're scoring points. They're stopping offenses. This is a really complete football team as of now. You have to be excited if you're a Colts fan. One of these games where we saw such great performances by this offense where they didn't have to punt was against a very stout Denver defense. Yep, that was yesterday. It is not a victory Monday, folks, unfortunately. Broncos country, we are not celebrating a win today. Nope, we're not. We actually lost big time to the Colts. Not big time, but in a pretty brutal fashion, I would say. So the Colts are legit. Daniel Jones, comeback player of the year. And are the Colts potentially an AFC dark horse? They just might be. We got to keep our eyes peeled on this Colts team for sure. Okay, let's get into the topic that I'm actually the most excited to talk about. My producer's sick right now. She does not want to do it. She is dreading this conversation, but we have to have it, folks. Before the season started, I said it and I meant it, and I will find the receipts. I said that the Chiefs were going to be regressing this season. I would say an 0-2 start feels a little like regression. Yeah, you could call it the Super Bowl hangover. I don't really care. They didn't have a Super Bowl hangover after the last few Super Bowls, though. This feels like regression. This feels like you might have to look at this team and go, do we keep this team where it's at, or do we make some changes? Maybe you maybe you get Tyreek Hill back in Kansas City. I know he's miserable where he's at. Okay, you got to start making some changes here if you're the Chiefs, because it's not looking great. Okay, an 0-2 start. An 0-2 start for the first time since 2014. The first time in the Mahomes era we've seen an 0-2 start from this Chiefs team. Regression, folks. I said it before the season started, and there's a lot of people that didn't want to hear it. I take a yoga class, and there are diehard Chiefs fans in that class, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do for work? Oh, I have a sports show. Oh, what are your takes for this year? Oh, your team's going to regress. Oh, you don't know anything." Really? 0-2 start, my friends. This is not good. The last 6 times that they started 0-2, they missed the playoffs. Now, am I ready to go there just yet? I don't think so. You've still got Patrick Mahomes. You've still got Andy Reid. Liv, why didn't you mention Travis Kelce? Oh, I'll tell you why, because here's an even hotter take for you. And I said this last season, and you hated it when I said it then, and I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back, okay? I am. I'm going to say it again for you, and here it is. Pack it up, Travis. I just think it's time to wrap it up. I really do. And listen, this is actually not me being a hater. It's really not. I don't want you guys to think that I'm just being a hater because I'm a Broncos fan. Like, yes, I am a Broncos fan. And yes, there is a part of me that does, in fact, hate the Kansas City Chiefs. That's normal. That's natural. I should hate them, right? Shouldn't I hate them? I think I should. So it has very little to do with that. And it has more to do with this. He's very disconnected. He doesn't really seem like he's all that interested in what he's doing anymore. He's exceptionally frustrated, and he's really not playing his best football. And with all due respect, Travis Kelce's brand is arguably the biggest it's ever been, and it has nothing to do with football. And that's not me being shady, folks. I am very happy for him. He's in movies. He's got commercials. He's got a very successful podcast. He's got a very successful fiance. And his brand is only going to get bigger once fiance turns to husband. Let's be for real. I think we have seen Travis Kelce. He has proven to us how phenomenal he is. His career is one for the history books. In my humble opinion, it might be time for Travis to just pack it up. And I said this last season, and you guys did not want to hear it, but the reality is the game might be passing Travis by a bit, dare I say. I mean, he's tackling his own teammates. He's yelling in people's faces. He's making costly errors with the game on the line. This is not the Travis Kelce that we once considered the best tight end in the NFL. It's not. That's the reality here. Although his brand is the biggest it's ever been. So in my opinion, let's wrap it up before things get too messy. It's the same conversation I wanted to have with Aaron Rodgers face to face. Hey, guy, hear me out. Which, Aaron Rodgers, keep doing your thing. You're having a great time and you're doing great. Awesome. But when he left Green Bay, I was like, listen, why don't we just call it quits? You've done a great job. But I understand at the same time that these athletes, this is what they live and breathe. They live, breathe, and die by this sport. It's not easy to just walk away from it. But I will say, we can start having a conversation, I would say, in the next few weeks, if we keep seeing out of Travis Kelce what we've seen in the first 2 weeks. Is he doing more harm than good? Is he doing more harm than good? Could this potentially be Travis Kelce's last season in the NFL? because his brand is huge right now, only going to get bigger, and it's not a football brand anymore. It's just not. Does he know the game? Does he love the game? Does he still play the game? Of course. But there's a lot of people that know who Travis Kelce is, and it's not because he's tearing it up on the football field. Because he is showing some regression. The game does look like it's passing him by. He's getting older. He might be getting a little slower. He's getting frustrated. He himself has said, I'm sick of this shit. All right, well, maybe that's the clue. Maybe that's Travis's way of saying to us, when I say I'm sick of this, I mean it. I've only got so much in me left. And also, their bodies, the torture that they put their bodies through every single year. Yeah, I would imagine he's probably sick of it. At least when he was torturing his body before, there was a reward. They were winning games. They were winning rings. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be that year for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so far, what we've seen in 2 weeks of football, Travis Kelce is, in fact, doing more harm than good. At what point does he say, I'm done? Is this Travis Kelce's last season? I lean yes. I said it last year. Y'all did not want to hear it. Liv, he's still got gas in the tank. Liv, he's still the best tight end in the NFL. I don't know, folks. I mean, hello, George Kittle has entered the chat. Brock Bowers on the horizon. I'm just not sure Travis Kelce is really number one anymore. He's kind of slipping down that list. And so don't you feel like you kind of want to end it on a good note while your dignity's still intact, So again, I understand it's the game they love and live and die by. So much easier for me in a little podcast chair here to say that. But I'm just saying might be something he wants to consider, because if he's going to keep costing the Chiefs games and making really boneheaded decisions, that doesn't really seem fair to a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who's still got plenty of gas in the tank, right? Okay. That's all I've got on that. Let's get into the Where Do We Stand segment, shall we? My weekly standings for this week, and this one's going to hurt, folks. It's the truth. It's going to hurt my feelings, and if you're from Broncos country, it's going to hurt yours too. It will. At number 5, and this is bad beats. My weekly standing is bad beats, and you can look at that from a betting angle, or you could just look at that and say, ay, caramba, that hurt. At number 5, the tush-push hack. You could make an argument here that there was a false start call that was missed. Where was the flag? I don't know. At the end of the day, though, here's this. The tush-push has yet to be stopped. I think 90% of the time when the tush-push is being attempted, there's probably a false start that gets missed. So I'm just not sure you could say that's the reason the Chiefs lost the game. You could definitely say, hey, there were a lot of calls on both sides that were not getting called. And by the way, Chiefs fans, I think you're going to struggle to find sympathy from the NFL as a whole, the fan base as a whole, when it comes to plays being, flags not being thrown when they should be, right? Because you guys get a lot of flags that I don't think everybody gets to have. So I'm not sure you're going to get a lot of sympathy there. But in this particular moment with the game on the line, I can understand the frustration there. I would call this a bad beat only because I think it opens the conversation for, was there a call that was missed? Sure, you could say there was. But in the same way, I'm going to keep this same energy, I promise, when I talk about the Denver Broncos. It can't come down to one bad missed call. There were plenty of opportunities for the Chiefs to stay in this one. Like I already mentioned, Travis Kelce did not do his part in helping this Chiefs team beat the Eagles. There was a lot of moments that I think you could probably say, hey, that could have won you the game, or that could have won you the game. Not really sure you can look at the tush push and say that cost us the game. Quite frankly, the tush push is the loophole that the Eagles jumped on early, and nobody seems to find an answer for it. So I think a lot of the frustration in watching the tush push with a microscope, it's funny because I've seen a lot of Chiefs fans talking about the missed false start with this tush push like they were studying it under a microscope. They very rarely study the flags that go in their favor, and those really don't even need a microscope. You can see them with your blind eye that some of those are a little not fair, or lean a little too heavily in the Chiefs' favor. We've all seen it. As fans of the NFL that aren't Chiefs fans, we've all seen it. So could you make a case for a false start that was missed? Sure, you could. Is that the reason that the Chiefs lost the football game? It's not. Let's move on. Okay, for Sack attack, Panthers versus Cardinals. Listen here. The defense is truly the game changer in about 90% of the football games, okay? In this game, the Panthers really had an opportunity to do something here. The Panthers were hanging on for dear life, and they really had an opportunity. And then you get Campbell, had a sack with 26 seconds left in the game to basically seal it for the Cardinals. Defense wins championships. It really, really does. But I do want to give a little bit of credit because Carolina trailed in this game 27-3 with 9 minutes and 23 seconds left in the third quarter. But here comes Bryce Young throwing 3 touchdown passes in the second half to lead a comeback attempt. And then this is where, like I said, the defense with a bad beat. If you were a Panthers bettor, you were probably feeling so defeated at halftime, thinking there's no way. And then you get Bryce Young, who just steps his foot on the gas and says, let's get this done. And it's just not enough because you've got Campbell with a sack, 26 seconds left. Just fantastic. 39-year-old dude. I mean, coming in clutch and sealing the game for the Cardinals. You really, really love to see it. Sacked on 4th down by Campbell to end the comeback threat. But you do have to give your flowers and a little bit of credit to Bryce Young for the comeback that was the Panthers in this game and was Bryce Young. 3 touchdown passes all in the second half. Really great stuff. But yeah, this just shows right here, folks, the sack attack is the way. We used to do a cheer when I was in high school. Sack that quarterback, defense, attack. Sack attack. Moving on. At 3, all for nothing Wilson. How sad is this crap? First of all, let me just say this. I'm sorry, but I'm going to sound like a total hater, and I really could care less about it. What really sucks here, guys, is that this fantastic performance by Russell Williams, who is Russell Williams, I may ask? This phenomenal performance by Russell Wilson really doesn't mean a damn thing when you lose the football game. Isn't it the truth, though? It's true. You could have a phenomenal game. You could be a Russell Wilson, who I will read you his stats for you just in case you missed the game, because you're probably thinking, why would I want to watch the Giants versus the Cowboys? Most people wouldn't. Most people, the brain would not want to watch this game. 30 completions off of 41 attempts, 450 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, 3 sacks, 3 rushes for 23 yards. Russell Wilson did his thing, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They had this game. And then they choked it away. Why would you even let the Cowboys back in this one? Okay? And I got to tell you, on a completely separate note, remove Russell Wilson from the conversation for half a second and remove the Giants completely from the conversation for half a second. Let me just say this. Don't talk to me ever again, ever in your life. And if you think about it, if you want to try to do it to me, I might have to hit you. Don't talk to me about the Cowboys again. Okay? They almost lost to the Giants. I don't want to hear about them. I don't want you to say it's our year. I don't want you to tell me Dak Prescott is the truth. I'm sick of it. Shut up about the Cowboys. I'm over it. Okay? They should have whooped these dudes into the ground. And it had to go into overtime. And it was really a win because the Giants failed. That's what it was. The Giants made a lot of effing mistakes that allowed the Cowboys to sneak in there and get a dub. I'm not giving the Cowboys too much credit for this dub. I'm just not. And stop talking to me about this team. I'm sick of hearing about them. Truly. And by the way, they're not America's team. They're certainly not my America's team. I'm sick of these guys. They're pissing me off. But it was an exciting game. I will say that. It was very exciting. Most divisional games are. Very exciting game. And Russell Wilson does still have some gas in the tank. That's my point here, okay? And what really sucks is the reason this is number 3 on my bad beat list is Wilson really showed up and showed out. He did. Was he perfect? No. Were there some costly mistakes towards the end of the game? Of course. But Wilson balled out. He really, really did. 450 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. He did a lot of great things, but it doesn't count when you lose. That's the sad reality of life. And if I were a Giants money line bettor, I'd be pissed off today. All for nothing, You have a great game, but it doesn't mean a thing when you lose. But really, truly, the Cowboys had no business even going into overtime versus the Giants. I mean, if we're going to keep talking about the Cowboys like they're somebody, this is unacceptable. I've had enough. I've reached my limit with this team. I don't want to hear about them anymore. I don't want to hear about them until they're in the NFC Championship game. I don't want to hear a word about the Cowboys, okay? Thanks. Moving on. Okay. At number 2 on my bad beats list, the underestimation of Jake Browning. Let me tell you something. I had a friend that had a $5 to 800 parlay. Just about accurately predicted this entire slate. Shout out. Shout out Eric, okay? Really did his thing with this one and had the Jags. And I remember we were on the phone with him and there was about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And he's like, they're all looking really good right now. All of them. All of my bets are looking really good right now. And they were. And I said, Eric, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. We have entered the witching hour, my friend. Cue the lightning strikes. Cue the evil witching laugh. It's true. The witching hour is where bets go to die, okay? And actually, I'm sure, not that we celebrate injuries around me in my circle of friends, but I'm sure there was a little bit of relief that he felt when Joe Burrow went out with an injury. Like, woohoo! Okay, my Jags money line is looking real sweet. Looking real sweet. Jake Browning really did his thing, didn't he? Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I underestimated this guy. Who even is Jake Browning? You hear Joe Burrow goes out with an injury and you're like, well, they're toast. Well, not so much, not so fast, because Jake Browning truly took matters into his own hands, running it into the end zone himself. This was the perfect example of the game's not over till it's over. Even if Joe Burrow is out the game, you're not safe, okay? Jake Browning not only stepped in for Joe Burrow, where you're kind of sitting there going, all right, the Bengals or the Jags have got this one in the bag. Joe Burrow's not playing. You're especially thinking that when you watch Jake Browning throw 3 interceptions. You completely let your wall down, Jags. You completely let your guard down. You weren't scared of this little guy. You weren't scared of Jake Browning. Who is he? Okay, 3 interceptions, more interceptions than passing touchdowns, replacing Joe Burrow. Whoop-de-doo. But that's where you went wrong. You cannot let your guard down, okay? You cannot let your guard down for even a split second, especially when it's the witching hour. I know these players don't care about bets, and they shouldn't, but they should care about the witching hour because it affects them just like it affects us. It is a scary time, 5 minutes left in any football game on an NFL Sunday. It's petrifying, okay? So I got to be honest. I'm talking to our friend on the phone, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you're good. Oh, yeah, no Joe Burrow. You're good. Jags money line. That's easy money. How dare I? How dare I, knowing what I know, be a bet musher? I did. I mushed his bet. I'm like, you're fine. You're in the clear. You're good. No, you're not. Jake Browning, 3 interceptions. I'm thinking, you're good. This guy's not going to do anything. You're fine. Not true. Not true. So the underestimation of Jake Browning, I think, was the demise of the Jags. And the Jags made quite a few errors themselves. But I do want to give a little credit. I said this, and I know you guys don't like to give me credit for stuff, but I did say that the Jags were going to win the AFC South. That's a pick. That's a bet. I placed that bet, actually. I like this Jags team a lot. They're the best team on the ground right now. They are really stinking good. And this is one of those losses that I think they're probably it's going to sting later on for sure. Could be one of those costly losses towards the end of the season that you're just like, they had it. 2 interceptions by Trevor Lawrence. I think he needs a little bit more reliability with his receivers, but this is a team that on the ground is really doing well. And so I still have great excitement around the Jags. I really do. I think this is a team that is going to build every week and learn from their mistakes and keep on pushing. And I'm excited for them. But unfortunately, this was one of those bad beats. Last flipping few minutes of the game, they blew it, and it's tough. But Trevor Lawrence, please keep your chin lifted because I like the direction this Jags team is going. I really stinking do. Okay, at 1. The leverage call. Guys, here's where I get really real with you for just a second, okay? Here's where I get really, really real with you for just a second. Yes. Like you, I do feel like this is a bunch of bogus at the moment. Naturally, right? I am a Broncos fan. Naturally, I feel like there's a little bit of bogus here with this call. The reason I feel like it's bogus, and not for the reason you think, I don't think it's bogus because I think that the Broncos didn't maybe commit this penalty and deserve the whistle. We're not going to get into that because that does feel like excuses. I'm a Broncos fan, so regardless of how I frame this, it's going to sound like I'm making excuses for this football team, and I am not. However, I think the leverage thing is happening more often than it's getting called. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I'm like, oh, okay. To the Broncos fans that are like, that felt like a call from Vegas, that I can understand because it does feel like this happens often and it's just not getting called. So why now? Why in this position was it called? Because I do feel like this is something that they kind of just turn a blind eye to quite a bit. And they didn't in this one particular instance. There are rumors out there. There are conspiracy theorists everywhere that believe the league hates Sean Payton. Is there some truth to that? There might be. He's a stubborn old fart. We know that. We love him, but he's a stubborn old fart. So is there a little bit of truth to Sean Payton is disliked and, oh, we never call this call, but we're going to call it today on these guys? Might be. Might be. Does it feel like in my Broncos soul and heart and bones that they got a little robbed? Yeah, it does. But what can you do? You know, you throw an interception late in the game, you miss a field goal. The leverage call, sadly and unfortunately, is not the reason you lost this football game. Too many damn rookie mistakes for a team that's supposed to be a contender. Can't have it. You should never be in the position where some phony little BS crappy call like this is what ruins your chances at a win. You know what I mean? They put themselves in a position to just be pissed off regardless, right? So I think what they're going to find when they watch film today is we lost the game far before the leverage call. And that's the truth. And the Colts are legit. And the Broncos let this game slip right into the dust. They did. Our defense didn't look as sharp as it normally does. Now, am I going to be one of those overdramatic, crazy people that I see on my timeline that's like, overrated after one game? Grow up. No, I'm not. This defense is still exceptional. Just chillax. Danny Dimes is Tom Brady right now. What can we say? Just relax. But did the defense look its best? No, it didn't. Our offense started hotter, much hotter. Shout out Troy Franklin. Big fan of him. Big fan of the glow up he's had from last season to this season. Bo Nix looks a little uncomfy. I think we need to see Bo Nix settling in a little bit. We got to see Bo Nix settle in right now. He looks a little jumpy. He looks a little scary. He looks a little skittish. You got to settle in, Bo. All right? Because you are as good as we know you are. You proved it last year on the biggest stage, you know, like the NFL. As a rookie, you proved what you've got. Now, does it feel like maybe earlier than last season, we're seeing Bo Nix pretty much tells Sean to shut his pie hole quite a bit. I don't know if that's actually what he's saying, but we're seeing some confrontation happening between Sean Payton and Bo Nix. Bo is not afraid to speak his mind to Mr. Sean Payton, which I think is actually what makes their dynamic work. I do. I think Sean respects people that tell him to shut up. Only certain people. Okay, I couldn't walk up to Sean and tell him to shut up. He'd probably, have me banned from the Broncos facility for the rest of my life. But I think they have a mutual respect with one another. What I have noticed, because I went to the first game and I obviously watched this second one, what I have noticed is Sean Payton to me is a micromanager. I think where Bo Nix does the best is when you just let him play ball. But Sean Payton's also a really good coach. So there has to be a little bit of micromanaging in there. I think what we're seeing right now between Sean Payton and Bo Nix is the perfect combination of let Bo do his thing while also kind of establishing some structure. I think it's that happy medium of letting Sean coach and letting Bo play. Once we can find that happy medium, I think we're going to get confident football out of Bo Nix, and you're going to get the best out of Bo Nix. But it does feel like right now he's kind of on eggshells still. He's still in that limbo of, I got to listen to this guy, but I don't agree with what he's saying, and I want to just play football. He just looks skittish. He looks uncomfortable. He looks scared. So we need Bo to settle in, and I feel confident that he will. I have not lost faith in this Broncos team by any means. Our defense did not look as great. Our offense started stronger this game, but couldn't finish. You have to finish the game. The fourth quarter is arguably the most important quarter. And that's why this is number one on my bad beat list, because you let your effing guard down. For what? Did you guys not watch film on this Colts team? Because they looked pretty good last week. Okay? You can't let your guard down, not even for half a flipping second. You can't. So, bad beat. Yeah, the leverage call felt like a really bad beat, especially if you had the Broncos winning this game. But at the end of the day, as a Broncos fan, I can say with my chest, the leverage call is not why we lost. There were a lot of mistakes leading up to that leverage call that blew this game for them. It's the facts. I'm not the type of fan that just blows smoke up the behinds of my Broncos 24/7. You're on the wrong show for that one. No, I'm going to call it what it is. You can't have a late game interception. You can't miss a field goal. Defense has to step up bigger in the fourth quarter than in the first, second, and third. That's the facts. The leverage call was just icing on the cake. But at the end of the day, this Colts team is an AFC dark horse. Daniel Jones is making a case for comeback player of the year, and the Broncos lost. They got outplayed. They did. The leverage call just kind of, it felt a little stingy. It felt like we were robbed. It didn't feel fair. I get all that. But that's not why we lost, sadly. So, bad beat number one, because, like I said, still licking my wounds over here. Didn't love that one. Did not love that one. Okay. I think it's time for our favorite segment now, which is Driven Opinions, where I take a back seat. The back seat is a hot seat. All gas, no brakes on hot takes. I have no idea what my producers prep in advance. I have no idea what the prompts are, the questions are, all the things. She does this for me beforehand. I have no idea. I will find out at the same time as you. And of course, this is driven by Landmark Lincoln. Let's get into Driven Opinions. Let's get into it. I like I said, I don't know what this is going to be, so let's do it. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, first and foremost. Oh, for God's sake. Your fiance all of a sudden becomes a diehard Chiefs fan. What do? You see this thing right here? You see this stunning piece of jewelry right here? We would sit down, we would have a conversation, and I would, in the most dramatic fashion possible, I'm talking sitcom, I'm talking soap opera drama, I would put this thing on the table and I would slide it across. And we'd be sitting on either side of the heads of the table so that the slide can be dramatic and long. I want this ring sliding for 5 Mississippis before it clinks him in the chest. And I would say, pack your shit and get out. Because how dare you? What are you talking about? You're a Chiefs fan. Are you high? No, I don't know if that would ever happen because I thankfully am marrying a man with common sense. Sorry, Andy. But if it did happen, yeah, we would have to have a serious conversation, and I think the relationship would have some issues for sure. But thankfully, like I said, he's a man of high intelligence, common sense. He knows what's good for him. He's also very smart in terms of happy wife, happy life. He knows this would not make me happy. So therefore, he would simply just not do it. Moving on. Thank you for this horrible question, Andy. I'm going to have nightmares on that one. Okay. You must replace every QB in the league with a rookie. Which team would survive? Oh. Who's the rookie? Just any rookie? Do I get to pick the rookie? Well, let's say you replace it with the worst rookie in the rookie class. We'll go there. Because the best rookie, I think, could probably do well on any team. Shedeur Sanders? Okay, we're replacing every quarterback in the league with Shedeur Sanders. Which team would survive? You know, we've talked about this before. When it comes to a rookie quarterback, the best thing you can do to set them up for success is to have a reliable run game. Set them up for success with a reliable run game. That's what you can do. So, honestly, the team that would survive is the Jags. He's already played with Travis Hunter before. There's already a very good dynamic there. And this Jags team on the ground is kicking ass and taking names. That's the truth. So I would say if you had to replace every quarterback in the league with Shedeur Sanders, put him on the team with a guy he's already played with. He's very familiar with how Travis Hunter plays, and Travis Hunter is very familiar with how he plays. And there is a reliable ground game. The run game is intact. The run game is reliable. The Jags are winning it all. If every quarterback is replaced with Shedeur Sanders, the Jags would win the Super Bowl. That's the truth. Woo! Okay, moving on. Next prompt. Woo! You have to make one wild rule change to the NFL. What's your chaos rule? Do away with taunting. It's so soft that these guys can't celebrate and get in people's faces and like dance and excessively celebrate. What harm? Honest to God, what harm is that doing? For God's sake, I like seeing these big men just be little kids for a second. Sue me. Taunting should not be a thing. It shouldn't, okay? I would say do away with taunting. That's like the first one that comes to mind because I think the taunting rule is so soft and so stupid. And if I had to pick a second one, it would be we got to reevaluate roughing the passer so that these teams take it a little bit more seriously to get their O-lines in check. Isn't that the whole effing point of the position, to protect your quarterback? And you should be more vulnerable if you have a bad O-line. That's literally the premise of the position. You have a shitty O-line, well, guess what? Your quarterback's going to get rocked a little bit. And if they don't want to get rocked, they better figure out how to use their legs. Hello? I'm all for protecting the player and the brains and the minds and the bodies. Obviously, I'm not evil. Relax. But we've gotten to the point now where it's like you can't even breathe on these guys. You can't even breathe on Patrick Mahomes without a flag flying through the air. For God's sake, this is football. Lord, have mercy on my soul. This is football, is it not? Okay? Like, if I wanted to watch a non-contact sport, I'd watch Alcaraz versus Sinner, baby, which I love, by the way. I would turn on something else, but I'm watching football. Okay? So I want to see it get a little rough and violent from time to time. Forgive me, but it's the truth. So we got to reevaluate roughing the passer because it has gotten a little soft, and the taunting needs to be gone. It's so stupid that these players can't celebrate. I mean, for God's sakes, I watched the Colts mascot thrusting his hips into the camera lens about 1,000 times as my team is losing. You think I wanted to see that crap? I didn't. He was gyrating all over the place. Let him have fun. If the Colts mascot can do it, then they should all be able to do it. Let them live, for God's sake. So yeah, no more taunting and reevaluate roughing the passer because half the time we're not even roughing the passer. We're breathing on him. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can't do that. It's tackle football. Okay? This isn't powder puff, for God's sake. Okay. I feel better. I'm not a violent person, by the way. I don't think. And I'm not an angry person anyways, I don't think. Well, I can be quite reactive. But I'm not violent, so forgive me if I like to watch it every once in a while. I'm not like swinging on people. I'm not tackling people for my job, although that could be fun here in Guerrilla Sports. I just run in the building and just tackle someone for fun. No warning, no preparation. That could be cool. Okay, we'll think about that. But anyway, that's it for Driven Opinion. Shout out to our family members over at Landmark Lincoln. They're not actually blood relatives, but they feel like family. Just get with the program. Okay, before we get out of here, I have one last thing to discuss. And this is my off my chest segment, and this is arguably the thing I'm the most excited to talk about here. Okay? Let's get into it. I know you saw it, folks. I know you saw what I saw, which is Chris Jones shit-talking Jalen Hurts. In a moment of weakness. Chris looked a little soft in this moment, I gotta be honest, okay? We know what Chris Jones is capable of. This is like first ballot Hall of Famer. Okay. And he looked quite soft in this moment. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm not being a hater. Of course, I love to see Chiefs players, less on the fans, actually, because the Chiefs fans I've met in my life are wonderful people. But I really love to see Chiefs players squirm as a Broncos fan. Does that make me a hater? No, it makes me a realist. Okay. This is football. Okay. I love seeing them squirm. But here's the deal about Chris Jones. I find it very hilarious how everyone is better than the Eagles until it's time to beat the Eagles. Have you noticed that? Everyone's got a lot to say about how their quarterback is better, or their offense is better, or their coach is better, or their defense is better until it's time to beat them. The Chiefs didn't look better to me than the Eagles. But let them tell you they're the better football team. Wrong. If I remember correctly, Jalen Hurts helped the Eagles beat the brakes off of your team, Chris, in the Super Bowl. They beat the brakes off your team, Chris. This wasn't a close game. It was embarrassing. You had more penalties than tackles, and you're worried about how many yards Jalen Hurts has in the middle of a football game. Why? 3 losses in a row at this point, 2 of which at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles, and you're checking on Jalen Hurts' yards? Why? I think we've got bigger fish to fry. I think we've got bigger problems to worry about here, I'm afraid. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't understand. Listen, I love a good shit talk. I love a good this, that. And this to me obviously was misdirected anger, right? Chris Jones is frustrated. Travis Kelce's frustrated. I'm sure the Chiefs team as a whole is frustrated. But clocking his yards, that just feels weird. Like, what are you worried about? And Jalen Hurts, your response was chef's kiss, by the way. He's like, shut up. We just won. What are you worried about my yards for? Chris, you better be happy he didn't have more yards, or that game would have been a lot uglier than it was. It's so weird. It was such a weird thing. I think this is really, truly an example of misdirected anger. And it's very clear to me that these Chiefs players have a lot of built up frustration. Like, this is the pot boiling over. And that's why, to be honest with you, I don't think their season's going to get much better than what we've seen in the first 2 weeks, because a lot of this is rooted in frustration. I'm seeing a lot of explosive, frustrated moments by these players, and I don't think it's going to get any better. I mean, the Eagles barely beat you. Barely. And Chris, you were part of the problem, actually. Like I said, you're chirping Jalen Hurts' ear off about his yardage when you've got more penalties than tackles. And he's about to take a knee and win. What are you worried about his yards for? That was crazy. But again, to each his own. We love a little trash talk. I get it. These are men that have emotions. They want to win. They're competitive. I get it. But I just feel like when you start 0-2, you have bigger things to worry about than how many yards Jalen Hurts has in the very game that he beat you in. You know what I mean? That just seems a little crazy. You don't even have 100 yards. Okay. Boop. Let me take a knee really quick and beat you for the second time in a row. One of which was the Super Bowl where, again, I beat the brakes off your team. You know, feels like we should just be focused on other things, Chris. That's all I'm going to say. Live your best life. But I feel like there are bigger problems here than how many yards Jalen Hurts has in the game that he beat you in. You know? Anyway, it's misdirected anger for sure. And rightfully so. I think the Chiefs players have a lot of things to be frustrated about. I just don't know if I would be right before he's about to take a knee and beat me. I'm not sure I would be asking him how many yards he has or telling him he doesn't even have 100 yards yet. And I'm also pretty sure he didn't he? I feel like actually Chris misspoke anyway, which is like one of those, okay, if you're going to talk to me, at least get your facts right. I had 101 actually. Fact check. Hey, Chris, instead of worrying about whether or not I have 100 yards, which, by the way, I do, I've got 101, do your research. Let's worry about the fact that this is now 2 games in a row that my team has beat you, one of which I beat the brakes off you at the Super Bowl, and one of which is, oop, boop, took a knee right now. Let's worry about your 0-2 start and 2 losses in a row to my team before you try to flex knowledge that you don't have, because pardon the interruption here, but I have 101 yards to be exact. Thank you. And still beat your team. Oh, yeah. I would just worry about yourself in that moment, but that's just me. I feel like the Chiefs have their own things to worry about. Maybe let's not worry about how many yards Jalen Hurts has. That's all I'm saying. Okay, we'll move on because I know Andy's just sick back there. She's just sick. She is ready to just cancel this show and just call it a day, okay? We have 2 games tonight, okay? We have 2 games tonight, and honest to goodness, I want to tell you something here. Feels like the Bucs in week 1 kind of had a little bit of luck on their side, and feels like the Texans in week 1 didn't. So I lean Texans spread here. I think they're the more complete and better team at the moment. That's what I lean. But it does feel like a stay away. And more than that, though, Chargers Raiders really feels like a stay away for me. That game feels like a trap. It just does. So I'm probably going to stay away from that game altogether. Chargers, Raiders, if anything, I'm going to sprinkle on Quentin Johnston, go Frogs, to score a touchdown. But Houston spread is probably like, or at least Houston money line, and maybe you parlay it with an anytime touchdown score or a player prop. But Houston, I would go, if I had to get better value, I'd probably go Houston money line and maybe Stroud over on passing touchdowns. That's where I lean. But honestly, both of these games to me kind of feel like a stay away, and maybe you just attack the player prop market. That's what I would likely do. But for sure, I think I'm going to have to stay away from that AFC West divisional game, because I think the Raiders can make some serious noise this year, and the Chargers, to me, are legit. I just don't know how legit. It's a stay away. It feels like a trap. Feels like a trap coming from me. Take it with a grain of salt, but that's how I feel. So, okay, you guys, that does it for another episode of Mood Swings with Liv Moods. I'm Liv Moods. This is Mood Swings, presented by Landmark Lincoln. As you guys know, I'm a new Lincoln Nautilus owner, and I love my car. Head to Landmark Lincoln. Tell them I sent you. They'll get you in a car. You can test drive it. They speak for themselves. We will be live again Friday, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, to discuss all things Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and of course, preview the Sunday slate. And here pretty soon, as we start getting closer to October, we will start trickling in some basketball to this show, I promise. It just feels like the excitement's all around football right now, so that's what we're focusing on. But we will be getting into basketball. So thanks again for tuning into another episode of Mood Swings with Liv Moods. I'm Liv Moods, and we will see you Friday, same time, same place, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, for another episode. See ya.